This is Ralph Stair, and you're watching the Break It Down show.
From all of us out here in the big world, I want to say thanks for you and your family and what you've done. I mean, I'm a California guy, but I moved to the Midwest, and that is when I discovered how much I had missed sausages in my life growing up. Because, look, we eat sausage out here in California, but not like people from Sheboygan do. Nope, nope, it's different out there.
We do a lot of work to make our sausage taste absolutely fabulous, and we have a wonderful group of people who follow us. We have a cult-like following because we've been at it a long time, and people appreciate all the effort that our own people put into making world-class sausage.
Yeah, yeah. For those who don't know, your family started Johnsonville Foods. You were the son who took over from the brand from your folks. And when you see Johnsonville in the stores, this is the guy, or this was the guy you used to run it, and you stepped down and everything now. But one of the questions I wanted to ask you is it's not easy to be the predominant brand in a nation. I mean, we have a brand called Farmer John's, and like you in Johnsonville, they were a longtime sponsor with the Dodgers, right? And so every night, Dodger dogs were done by Farmer John. Maybe you know the brand for a long, long time. And so that's how they got into the market. But to be nationwide, oh man, you can only think of a couple of brands of sausage type foods. Like maybe you could say 4 brands. That's it. And you guys are one of them. I mean, how on earth do you pull that off? How do you even dream that up?
Really, well, you don't really dream it up. You start in, get some customers, work to get a few more customers, try to sell more sausage next year than you did this year, and you just keep going. And I will tell you, it wasn't easy becoming a nationwide brand. It was
Yeah.
very, very difficult because you're competing against very entrenched competitors, large corporations with all kinds of resources, and you just have to find your own way. I spent my whole life finding my own way in
Yeah.
in business and in life, and people call me a contrarian because uh, when people say you can't do that, why not? Well, it's never been
Yeah.
done before. Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
That's when I get interested.
That's different, right? Or this is just not done, and then yeah, you can find your way. One of the things that's fascinating in my line of work is I get to meet a lot of people who do a lot of things. And so in my immediate friend group is someone who is a shelf stable and has been for decades food broker. And you know how valuable these people are. And so when you want to break into a market, say Southern California, and you have a shelf stable product, oh boy, this person who's a family brand as well. And they broke, let me see some brands that you might know. Stubbs, they broke them out. Cola Vita. These guys, they're invaluable to someone like you. So you go family brand to family brand. But in his world, once they break a brand, guess who comes knocking? The national brokers, and they snatch that business away from them as well. And so it is like this give and take. And sometimes the family brand will stay with them. And look, and they've done fine. They've got decades of doing it, but it isn't as simple as just like get your name known. Like there's all these relationships you've got to manage. And sometimes you've got to say goodbye to someone who's been great to you, but can't take you to the 48th and 49th state and to the 15th country. It is, it's more than business. It's family.
Yeah, and sometimes you have to part ways with some of the people that you worked with who helped you get there because they just couldn't do it anymore, and they just didn't feel well, and
Mhm.
you know what? They're under such stress that when you say, we got to find something different for you,
Yeah.
they're delighted because they're working so hard and they know they're not getting it done. And
Yeah.
I think we can find either in this company or elsewhere a place where you can really be successful and where you can succeed. And I'm all about helping people succeed, whether
Yeah.
they're with our company or without. So I say to people, you're here, we're going to grow you, we're going to help you learn and grow. And if you find another opportunity somewhere else that's really special, I'm going to hire a band and hold a parade for you.
Yeah.
How excited I am about it.
You're the second private-owned business owner on this show that's told me that same thing. I want to find the right spot for you, even if you're leaving. I want you to find that place you think you need to be. And then it turns out you need to come back, then yeah, you're welcome to come back. But
Yeah.
that comfort with that,
Yeah.
that's rare.
Yeah. People are everything. I tell my kids, let's go walk in this, let's go out in the factory on Sunday when nobody's in there. Let's see how much sausage is getting made.
Yeah. None. Yeah. Yeah. But you managed to do it. And you managed to take things on. You also, like, there's one of the things, like knowing when enough is enough of a certain things. Like, and I'm just going to make some things up, so I'm not trying to say exact things, but Jimmy Dean sausage in the breakfast sausage world, right? Or you can do some of this, or you can do some of that, but you can't do everything. So when you're looking at running a company, running a life, and trying to decide what to do, how do you get the sense for what's worth your time and what's just too much?
Well, you have to look at what customers want.
Mm.
And if we have something that we know customers want, that they prefer what we have over what anyone else has,
Mm-hmm.
then we'll go after it. And we'll keep going after it and keep going. We're a private company. We don't have to make quarterly earnings. We'll keep going after it and keep going after it, which we've done with a number of products, which is why we're the number one brand in the country.
Yeah.
We have the number one sausage brand, and Johnsonville is, and it's a lot of that business came from other people, and a lot of business came from new customers that never had sausage before. So it's all the same, and new innovations and different things. So, but most of it is understanding that your customer is the retailer,
Mm-hmm.
and the consumer is your customer, and you have to get that right. I mean, we have to provide value for them. If we provide value for them and they perceive it as value, and we can make a profit so we can continue to reinvest, then we have a good formula.
One of the things that's always fascinating to me, like, so a mutual friend of ours, Scott Husing, and we do this cross-country drive every year. And as we drive across the nation, I pay attention to the little markets and grocery stores that we go to, because how they're set up, it's all familiar. But when you look at the detail, like, and I don't look at but I'm going to start, I don't look at the sausage section, right? But if you do, like, one of the things that you notice is that sparkling water disappears as you go east. Like, it's just not a thing in a lot of the country. And I love sparkling water, drink it every day, and it's a big part of my life. But if you go to a convenience store in the South, it's a lot more sodas and energy drinks, that kind of thing. And you can't find those other options. A lot more coffee out here, that kind of thing. That's how we do our energy drinks. And so it must be that here in Southern California, the sausage section is just not as robust and diversified as it is, again, in Sheboygan. I mean,
if every market was like Wisconsin, we'd have a lot more factories. But we do very well. We do very well in Southern California, but it's the per capita usage is not the same, and tastes are different. I mean, we have different parts of the country have different tastes than others, and so you have to know that, and you have to develop your products accordingly.
Right. And the reason why I'm getting into all this stuff is not to do like a history of Johnsonville Foods. We can do that, and we certainly should, because you guys have done amazing things. But the theme of your book, and we're talking about your book, and here's the link for everybody who's looking, is one of the themes of the book is capitalism. And we struggle. I had a guy on the show the other day. His name is Robert Hunter. He was the NATO ambassador for President Clinton. And he was talking about how everybody is down on the economy. And he's like, the economy is fine. He's like, yeah, we go through these ups and downs, and they hurt. He's like, I don't want to minimize that. And I agree with him. This summer, I was in Arkansas, and I was actually driving to Roger Clinton's house. And I was driving north through the middle of Mississippi, Arkansas area, right? And all I saw were big rigs going to and north and south on the main highway there, because there's a lot of business going on. I know a dude that drives a big rig along all those routes, and all he does is, here's how great our economy is. He drives a ring route, a clover, depending on what time of the month it is. And all he can do is keep up with picking up used cardboard, and then he takes it down into Louisiana to drop it off to be reprocessed and turned into cardboard. Because there are so many people buying so many things that's wrapped in cardboard, that's the entire industry for him for hundreds of miles. Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, all these places where it's all they can do, but to get this cardboard out of our stores so we can get more cardboard into our store to open it up and have people buy things. Capitalism does seem to work, but obviously you have deeper thoughts because you've written a book and capitalism is in the title.
Well, here's the Cliff Notes, the short story.
Yeah.
From the Stone Age to 1800, the standard of living for the average person never changed. All those years. And there was wealth, but all the wealth came from extraction. Soldiers and kings took all the money for themselves, and they didn't spend anything on anybody else. Built roads, paid for armies so they can go kill somebody else. And in 1800, when we started with capitalism, which was all the exchanges became cooperative exchanges between people, like our sausage. I've made this sausage. Do you want it or not? Yes, and you'll pay me a price that I can afford to make it at, okay, and make a profit. And capitalism has lifted almost the entire world out of extreme poverty in the last 200 years. The only places that it hasn't is where you have dysfunctional governments. China, everyone was starving. Now look at them. And that didn't come because the Communist Party's good or because socialism is good, because it sucks. That came because they introduced capitalism. So people stopped starving. And so when you look at it that way, it's the ultimate gift from God for everyone to have abundance. And it's especially important for poor people because it lifts people out of poverty. And I see what's going on in the world, and I see these young people who don't get it. Hey, listen, they're living the greatest life in the world, especially in this country. They're living an incredible life, and they're mad about something. I have no idea what it is, but they just don't understand. They've been fed a load of baloney by a lot of our universities, and they don't understand the value of capitalism. The second thing is, it's all over the Bible. The Bible. If you read the Bible, you will see, and I have this in my book, all of the reasons. And Jesus was talking about capitalism. The Old Testament was talking about capitalism, and but they were presaging what would come when the time was right, and the time is right. So I just felt I had to write this book so people would understand, so parents could give it to their kids and say, take a look at this.
Yeah.
I know you got these guys telling this. Just take a look at this. Take a look and see what's going on here and listen to this, because this is how it works.
One of the things, I like baseball a lot, and I talk a lot about baseball on Twitter especially, and we often discuss, by the way, my buddy Cease, that's the guy that drives the truck in Arkansas picking up cardboard everywhere, right? So, there's a guy that makes his living moving packaging around, right? There's an entire marketplace for that. When you talk about baseball, people will say, Babe Ruth he'd never be any good today. There's black people playing and everything else. Yeah, but if you went back to his time, if you were born in 1895, 1 in 4 kids dead. It's like right there from the start. And all the kids under 18 were one of the most likely groups to die, And so every family had a dead young person. And if you got to a certain age, life expectancy was 48. Food staples were lard, some kind of cereal, probably corn, and then maybe milk. That was it. That was like the predominant part of the diet. You didn't have a lot of exotic other things. I didn't say the word meat, right? And that's all changed in part because we have stabilized and we've been able to build through capitalism, right? Good ideas got to stick, good ideas got to turn into better ideas. And your mom and dad got to go, hey, we think we can sell sausage. And I'm just guessing. I'm just guessing in this stay at home. It wasn't like, hey, we think we're gonna sell sausages, and it was like bah, 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 bah. Everything got easy. Like, no, it was goddamn hard, I bet. Wasn't a parade on day two.
No idea how hard they worked. The title of the book is Love Your Neighbor. And capitalism works with love.
Mm,
You have to love people to understand what they want. You have to be empathetic and understand what you can do to help them.
right.
The people in our company who work there, you have to understand what they need and what motivates them and what their visions and goals are.
Yeah.
And you have to create an environment for those people so they can rise up and feel fulfilled, or they're not going to want to be there. I'll never forget it. I remember reading this thing many, many years ago. It's one of the things that helped me understand. And it was this Lord Hanson, who was the CEO of Jaguar in England, and they were in terrible straits. They're going bankrupt, and the fellow says, talking about his workers, and there was a very militant group of workers. He said, we've won their hands, but not their hearts.
Mm,
It was very eloquent, and of course, he was one of the biggest reasons they didn't win their hearts. But he didn't understand that. But if you really care about people, and if you really
yeah.
understand, my job is simple. My job is to help every person succeed in life that's involved with me. And I'm a person. I'm the servant here. I'm there to serve them, to help them, and encourage them, and demand
Yeah.
it. I set very high standards and high expectations, which helps people rise up. I'm not mean about it. I'm not greedy. But I know what it takes for people to be successful. So that's the deal.
When I was getting my master's degree when I was in the army, my uncle ran a hospital in Missoula, and I was interviewing all these people as part of my degree, and I was asking him about leadership and everything else, and he said, that organizational chart you've been learning about. It's like, here's how I work it. I flip it upside down, and I look at the people that are my direct reports, and I find out what do you need to do your job. They don't get everything they ask for, but I try to give them everything they need. And if there's something that they need or something they combine and they both need, but they both can't have, I try to figure out how to solve those problems. And I work for them. And it blew my mind. And no one explained that to me. And I was most of the way through my master's course. And he said that to me. And it aligned with how I see the world. Maybe some other person's like, that's not how I do it. But I've always kind of taken that approach. And when I first start on a problem, I'm like, nope, you know what? I've got to think about if someone works for me, how are they doing? I have to care about how they're doing, because one of the things that matters to me is when I work for somebody else, if I don't think that they care about me, I definitely don't care about them. And I'll act like it, And so I've always cared about that. And it's been important to me.
My sister always said a favorite saying: "No one cares how much you know until they know how much you care."
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
I, it's a good thing to live by. I did a similar thing, by the way, when we first started out, because when I first got in the business, it was all about me.
Right.
I want to grow this business. I want to get rich. I want to do all these things. And we had a very disengaged workforce, just like everybody else. And then I realized that it wasn't their fault; it was my fault.
Mm,
When I first saw it, everyone thought, I said, I would tell you how much money we make. And everyone was shocked because they thought we made way more money than we did. It was funny. But what I did is I showed them, here's how our income statement looks. And I took all of the different things, and down at the bottom was wages. Profit was above it. I put a chunk of money in for profit, and at the bottom was wages. So the people say, this is what we're at. This is what it is. we are operating here and producing wages for you guys. We have to have profit. That's a given. We have to have that, or we'll be out of business. You won't have a job. We need a seed corn. We can't eat the seed corn. We have to keep planting for next year, or we won't have any corn next year. So this is what we have to have. And I took it and I showed it to them that way, and people took it to heart. They understood, and that's where we started. That's where we started really making changes at Johnsonville, to let people take responsibility, to teach them how to learn and grow, and how to take ownership and take pride in what they were doing.
Yeah.
People really want to do a great job.
Yeah.
If they're given a chance, and if they're encouraged, and if you can show them what a great job is.
Mm.
And it was amazing. The same people who didn't give a rip about me or about the company turned around to the most excited and most committed people you ever saw in your life.
How do you express that love for people? Because when you take on a job like this, and I'll say this is a virtue of capitalism, is you own the responsibility for making sure that, you keep this machine working. Like Cindy in accounts payable and Dave over in engineering or whatever, okay, they've got a job and you hire them to do their job because they're good, but you got to keep this whole thing together.
Yeah, well, yes, but it's a lot easier if those people understand that they're an important cog in the whole deal.
Okay.
That their job, that their roles are just as important. They're different, but they're important. If every person can understand that they had a great day and they contributed, it makes my job a lot easier.
Yeah.
I don't expect them to make most of the people to make big decisions, but I expect them to make decisions about their jobs every day and what they're good at. When I first started out, one of our people, and I told them this is what we're going to do, and then one of our people said, well, you don't expect the people on the bratwurst line to run the company, do you? And I said, no, but I expect them to run the bratwurst line and do a great job of it and do a world-class job of it. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll worry about what markets we're going into next and things like that. But you make great sausage and make it at a cost where we can make a profit and afford to invest back in the business.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and that worked.
When you were looking at making a great bratwurst or a great sausage or any new product that you want to introduce, again, this goes back to the what's too much and let's just be great at this one thing. You can't have everything. And someone who makes I love all these new ways to describe food. This is an artisanal, foraged, bespoke sausage, right?
Infused with.
Yes, all these extra words. Yeah. So I'm not minimizing anybody's hard work. Everybody, but there is a point where you're like, this is a great sausage. And like your Italian hot sausages are wonderful. I love those things. And the whole family of Italian sausages, they're great. Can someone else give me one that's also great? Yes. But I'm going to buy the Johnsonville one because I know what it tastes like. I like it. It's good for me. So when you go to make that decision on what your crew is capable of doing and what your sales crew can sell and what your marketing crew can help those guys sell and all those things, how do you make those decisions? And like, can you bring a white sausage to the California market? Or it's like, oh, those California guys will never eat that, unless you put the words, and you put a bunch of words in front of it and say, this is, the most, socially conscious white sausage ever grown or whatever, Because we love our words out here. We love
sustainable.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
That's sustainable. Right. Listen, we, like I said, we run tests all over the country. We do in-home tests with people and test our product about other people's products against other people's products. And our whole thing is noticeably better. People can absolutely, 9 out of 10 people pick this one every time. Because people have different tastes, and you can't satisfy every person. But
right,
if we don't have that, we're not going to sell it.
Yeah,
it's really that simple. We're going to go back and figure out how to win those taste tests like that, hands down. And it's different in, you know, try selling Italian sausage on the East Coast, and where every person in the world is a sausage maven.
Yeah.
Oh, my mom made sausage in the back room, and the little butcher down the street, he's in the back room, and he brings it out, wraps it in his paper, all this stuff, there are a lot of ingrained habits and things that you have to be really special to be successful in different markets with different
Yeah.
products. So we work very hard at that.
Yeah. Yeah. When I was deployed, one of the things, like my rules of thumb that I had was we were the bigger problem than they were, whatever they was, right? And a lot of combat is not fighting. A lot of combat is just trying to create stability. And if we could get out of our own way, if we could make less mistakes and just slow down and be a little more deliberate, we had a chance to be more successful. Now, I don't know if that's the same for running a company. I don't know if that's the same for taking care of one another in the community, but that's how it was for us when we were deployed.
It makes a lot of sense. You have to make some mistakes because people always said to me, "Oh man, you made so many great decisions." I said, "I made a heck of a lot more bad decisions than I made good decisions. I just made a lot of decisions."
Yeah.
And and the bad ones I got rid of right away, and the good ones I can keep forever.
Yeah.
And that's listen. You're gonna. I can't imagine combat. I signed up. I enlisted in the Marines back in '65, and if my knee was bad, they wouldn't take me. I was really upset with them that they thought they were better than I was, but so I couldn't go. And I can't imagine what it'd be like. I can't imagine what it'd be like to. That's. I'm glad I did experience it, and I take my hat off to every person who did. It has to be really difficult, and it has to. You take it home with you, and you never forget it. I think. So my hat's off to all those folks. But when you, where was I going with this?
Well, we are the bigger problem as opposed to like them, whatever them is, the markets or whatever. Like if we can handle our business better in terms of, that's what I saw with the unit. If I can get the unit to be more impactful, and I don't even necessarily mean in combat, right? Like half of our job, 3/4 of our job was to improve the government, to create stability, to, create a solid Afghan army in the area, right? If we can improve our ability to do that, if we could get the people, our sausage was the Afghan government. And if we could get people to believe that sausage was good, well, then we were doing our job. We sucked at that. We got our ass kicked by the Taliban, who in this case was the established brand, right? And so we could not accept that reality that we were getting our head kicked in, and we did things that undermined our own success all the time. So what I tried to do was get us to stop making mistakes, slow down, see what worked, and then repeat that process. But it was very hard to get our machine to slow down, because it wants to go activate and go, even if it's going and making mistakes.
Well, that's interesting. We found that there's a time to go fast, and there's a time to go slow.
Okay.
When you have it figured out and things are working, then you want to go like crazy. But when you're starting out with a new product, a new whatever it is, you want to do it right. I had a piano teacher that years ago, and he said, "I want you to play this very slowly, and I don't want you to make any mistakes. You need to play it. I don't care what the time of the music is. You play this so slowly that you never make a mistake. And you keep doing that, and you'll speed up. But the minute you start making mistakes, your brain thinks about that, and you'll keep making that same mistake over and over and over again. So very slowly get started, and then get better. As you get better, you go. You come up to time." I think he was absolutely right. I became a better piano player. The new songs I played, I was way better at. It's the old songs I could never get right because So
Right.
the book, there's a few other things in the book I just want to talk about a little bit,
Yeah,
if
please.
not just sausage. Sausage,
Yeah. Yeah.
listen, well, sausages where we do we we don't make sausage, Pete. We make
Yeah.
people who make sausage,
Right.
and we work very hard to keep that in mind.
Okay.
And so a fella named, and this ties back to capitalism. Okay,
Okay.
a fellow named Jonathan Haidt, along with a few other people, did a survey years ago. Thousands and thousands of people all over the world. Okay, and found looking for basic human values. And he found two main values:
Okay.
caring for others and fairness. So think about that. All these cultures all over the world, and they have the same two basic human values. I say to my friends who have questions, I says, if you ever had a question about whether or not God exists, you need no look. You need to look no farther than that survey,
Yeah.
because if God hadn't made people in His own image and likeness, how in the world could you explain the fact that we're all the same down deep? It doesn't work.
Right.
If you take that same thing and apply it to business today, capitalism, if I care for others enough to make the product that they want to have, and if I'm fair in my business dealings, I'm going to be successful. And I am, and we are. And so if you look at it that way, when capitalism is based on cooperative exchanges, I'll give you my money, you give me the product.
Right.
I'm not forced you to buy it. I don't have to, it's cooperative.
Right.
It forces fairness and it forces caring for others. And that is the basis. And that's why it works. Because that's how we are wired. Now, if you take that, you ask how do you get loved or how do people care for you in the business. If you take that and put it inside, and everyone knows that I care for them. Everyone knows that we talk about love your neighbor inside the company. We want people caring for other people. We want them to do the right thing. If they see someone making a mistake, we want them to stop over and talk to them about it. Well, that's not my job. That's somebody. I'm not wasting my time. No, we owe it to each other to support each other and help us all get better. And that's the kind of environment that we've been working hard to create for many years. We're not perfect. We still have some clinkers here and there, but we're way the heck better than we were, and we're way the heck better than almost anybody else that I've ever seen. And so that's really important because that's what makes me tick. To the joy I get is out of seeing all the people that have come so much farther than they ever expected to do. I'm one of them. I mean, if you think I expected to have a company that's not only a national market, but we're in 50 other countries.
That's crazy.
If you think I expected that when we started out, I would have to say no.
Yeah.
And so I came out. Did I ever think I was going to write a book? I wrote a bestseller in 1993, The Flight of the Buffalo, all about empowerment back at the time.
Yeah.
It changed America's work. It changed the workplace in America. It
Yeah.
absolutely changed the workplace. That all these people read this book and started changing how they work with people. And now I'm writing another one, and I know that this book's going to have an impact also because it's the right thing for the right time. We need it. We need people to understand that socialism doesn't work. That this is God's will we're doing, and it's important to me. Just one more quick thing. I struggled for years because I was wealthy, and I felt, gosh, you hear about it's easier for a camel to get through the eye of a needle than it is for a rich man to get to heaven. Well, I struggled for years with that and prayed and prayed and prayed. And one day I was reading our link letter. It's our newsletter.
Mm-hmm.
And I was reading our link letter, and it was at the front page was a story about one of our mechanics. He and his wife went to Hong Kong to adopt a special needs baby and brought it back. And I'm sitting in my office on a Friday afternoon, and I'm reading this, and this incredible wave came over me. It was the Holy Spirit. I've never experienced anything like that before in my life. Never will again, I'm sure. But it was so powerful, so profound. And I heard it in my head, Ralph, if you weren't doing what you were doing, they couldn't do what they just did.
That's right.
And so you're doing exactly what I want you to do, Ralph. You're just not giving me enough credit. I mean, you don't really talk about God. You don't talk about God in the workplace. Oh, no. That's what I did. I started. And we started talking about it back then. And I will tell you, our company is much better for it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing sometimes. Yes.
Well, this is what a business is for.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, for all you other naysayers, business is what provides all the money. All of it.
Yeah.
All the money that goes to the government that comes back, all the stuff they can spend, it's all done by business. And when I talk about business, I'm talking about doctors, lawyers, dentists, professors. They're all in business.
Yeah.
They're all in business too. It's a profession. But if enough money doesn't come in to cover the costs, they're not in business. So
it's true.
That's the message. That's part of the message of the book. There's a lot more, but I just want to get that across how important it is to me.
Yeah.
That's why I wrote the book, so people understand. And then, but to run your business that way, people are not expendable, dispensable.
Right.
People are important, and if you're not doing that, if people are your means to an end, then I don't think you get it, and I don't think you're following God's will. So
there's a lot of things to say about what you're talking about, and I want to get back to people because I think people are the answer, and really in the title of your book, it's right there too. But the thing that we often lose sight of when we struggle, and we do struggle with these things because it's not easy. We don't know the answer, right? And so we think like capitalism is the answer. And some other very smart person with very capable degrees will say, yeah, it's a blend. And some other person will say, no, it's this. But when you think about someone who dedicates their life to whatever, being an industrialist, and they say, hey, I'm going to specialize in titanium. Because that person does that, there are things that white paper, white paint, all these things that come out of titanium extraction that allow us to live a modern life with choices like things that are white, because that's what happens when you make things out of titanium. And there's all these products that we have no even clue that they exist because we don't have to worry about that because someone is taking care of that for us. And can you do that in a socialist economy? Yeah, maybe, but not as well. And an example of that is, part of the reason why we win World War II is that Great Britain and America could partner. And some person could say, hey, boss, why don't we take this engine and put it in that airplane the Americans have? And all of a sudden, our airplane gets 3 advancement ahead in terms of power. And now we can outperform our rival. And that doesn't happen well when you have these leader-dominated societies that decide things for a giant group. It's just not as nimble, it's not as fast, and so you can't solve those problems.
People, they always said about Lenin that he loved humanity, but he hated people.
Yeah.
And this is the thing about every person is different. big solutions, top-down solutions don't work. Um, this is what's the magic of capitalism is that at the lowest level, people get to make their own choices. And some people go out of business because they're not doing a good job. They're not making the right products. That's that's business. But that that's actually good for everybody.
Right.
Sometimes you have listen, I love all the people in Johnsonville. We have to let some go sometimes because I can't let one person bad performance affect the lives of 2,300 other people.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I can't do that. It's my responsibility. I have to treat
Yeah.
that person well and try to help them find something else where they can be successful. But I can't let them gum up the works.
Yeah.
And
We,
because there's too many people depending on our company.
yeah. Yeah, I mean lives, right? People need this thing to work and to grow because they're planning their lives on it, and this goes back to that responsibility on the leader piece that you talk about, and to care enough to love these people, and again, it's people. One of the things that I wonder about for modern companies, and I know you're a guy that looks forward. You're not looking back, and that's in the some of the stuff you've talked about, but the gap between a great company and a great employee, even if that employee needs some development, it's wider than it's ever been. Like you could have a person who's a fantastic employee apply at any company, and there's almost 0% chance you can hire that person because the gap is so massive because we've got robots in the way, and we're not allowed to engage that person can't just come up, knock on the door, and say, I have been looking around for companies and I want private companies and I want a company that loves its employees. And I think it's you guys. That doesn't happen unless you know someone internally. You can't knock on a door cold anymore. It just doesn't happen.
We're not experiencing that, Pete. I will tell you,
That's good.
interesting thing. COVID, uh, everybody lost. We don't have employees. We have members of our team members,
Sure.
members. But we lost a number of people who decided to retire, decided not to, or were afraid it didn't want to come to work or whatever. And then there was so much money being handed out by the government, people didn't have to work.
Right.
And so it was and we are in a very tight labor market back in Sheboygan. We have plants in lots of places, but especially Sheboygan, we have more than anywhere else. The unemployment rate was about 1.5%, or 2% before COVID hit. Now, so all of the companies are there, trying to hire people, and you can see the billboards. We're going to pay you X amount of hours. No forced overtime, all this stuff, and everyone's doing that. Our billboards and our website talked about not jobs but careers first of all, and they featured people who said, my work matters here. I make a difference, and other things like that.
Yeah.
And we didn't talk about money at all. And we're in full employment and have been for some time. And all of us are still scrambling, looking for people. So, because we understand what people need, what they want, especially these days. The younger people here, they're looking for more than a job. They're looking for to make a difference. They're looking to be respected and to be honored. And so, it's been really eye-opening for a lot of people and these people who are running these ads, it sounds to me like that's a transactional deal, doesn't it?
Well, I was going to say,
and I'll give you this much money.
Yeah.
Okay? It's a transaction. We're not talking about a commitment.
Yeah. Yeah.
A commitment to the individual. That's a very different, and people are smart enough to figure that out.
Yeah. If you can even have the conversation. And I suppose my point here is I can go apply at 100 companies and probably get less than 30% an actual response, like, hey, um, no luck this time, right? Like, I mean, like very low percentage. A lot of times it just goes into the black hole and disappears.
Really?
And then you can, oh yeah, no, it's very very difficult outside that job. You know, the job market is very hard. And you can send emails into a person who's like, this is the person who's hiring. You can send an email, hey, I know that you're hiring. I've applied for this position. No response, right? All the time, which tells me one thing. Not a company that I want to work for. Like if you're so busy and your job is to hire people that you can't engage with the people who are trying to engage with you through several channels, you know what? Maybe you're too busy to maybe it's not a good place for me, right? But I do see that quite a lot, where companies are saying we have this incredible opportunity, we'd love to talk to someone who wants it, but then they don't talk, especially companies that say, hey, we want to hire veterans. If a veteran applies, you should then say, hey, you're a veteran. This is easy to do. You can have a robot that does this. Hey, you're a veteran. We'd like to set up a chance to chat with you. It should just be automatic. And if you get too many veterans, hey, you've got a great problem. You got a great problem. You got too many veterans applying for your jobs that you said you want to give to them. So, but I would tell you in the greater job market, I don't see that. In a lot of the companies that I have seen and worked with, interacted with, yeah, they want to grind you into dust. And everybody knows it's a temporary thing, and they're not building careers. They're building, we expect you to be here for about a year to 2 years, and then you'll move on to something else. And boy, yeah, let's all agree that you're going to burn out and leave for some reason onto something else. And it's a horrible way to build a company, I think. But then again, maybe they're building a different kind of company for a different kind of day. It's not a family like what you're building.
There was a certain company, I won't mention the name, but the policy was to get them to turn over every 3 years.
Yeah.
I'm young, so they can work hard, and low medical insurance and all the other stuff. I won't mention names, but it's a very large corporation, and it uses a lot of cardboard.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of those companies.
This company is supplying a lot of the cardboard that your guy is collecting.
Yeah.
Well, but yeah, listen, capitalism isn't perfect.
Sure.
By a long shot. It's just so much better than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And it's done so much more for people than anything else. And look at Elon Musk. His management style is the absolute antithesis of mine. Okay.
Yes.
However, he created the electric car, changed the whole industry to make something that hopefully is going to be a lot more environmentally friendly.
Right.
Once we solve the problem of how do we provide the electricity, there's a very simple solution to that. But okay, you put men in space, and we didn't even have a space program for 50 years. And he went out and did it, and people laughed at him. And the government laughed at him. They're not laughing anymore.
They're hiring him.
Yeah. He's very concerned about artificial intelligence because he worries that it can start learning on its own and thinks, well, we don't need these human beings anymore. And so he's invested a ton of money, hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars now, to create AI that is tied into humans. So it can't do that. His big thing about space is to send people to Mars. So if an asteroid hit this world, that there would be humans living somewhere else to have us not go extinct. This guy thinks big thoughts.
Yeah.
And gosh, you would not want to run your business like he does. But even, and bring it up, even this complete reverse example. The man's creating a lot of good. He's creating a ton of good. He's
Yeah.
creating work for hundreds of thousands of people. He's creating a better life for people. He's creating a better planet. He's doing a lot. So his intentions up here are fabulous.
Yeah.
His methods I would argue with, but the reason I bring it up is because even when you look at that, you say, this guy is creating a lot of good.
Yeah.
Because he's doing it in a capitalistic system. If he was sitting up there in a communistic system, and I'm going to do this, it wouldn't happen. You wouldn't have the same kind of products. You wouldn't have the same kind of stuff. It would never happen.
Yeah.
I bring that up because, like I said, capitalism is not perfect.
Right.
It's not perfect at all. But it is so much better than what's in second place. We won't even talk about
it. One of the other things that's amazing about someone like Elon Musk, for example, is he's not limited on his ideas. Neuralink is progressing. He's got his Boring Company. He's not limited. And although this is not just a capitalistic idea, you can buy stock in Tesla, and it's been a pretty good bet over the last 20 years.
Yeah, a lot of people, a lot of money.
Yeah, and so you can say, I hate capitalism, but you can also saddle that model and say, I hate capitalism, but I'm going to put $100 a month into the market, into an index fund. Not even get fancy. And guess where you're going to end up in 60 years? Sitting in a millionaire's chair, right? I mean, that's just how it goes.
Try that in Yugoslavia.
Well, there's no Yugoslavia.
So I'm from Slovenia, okay?
Yeah, right.
My parents are, my grandparents.
Yeah.
We went there to visit to see it, and it's still socialist. And this guide that we had was, it's so wonderful. This is so wonderful. This is so wonderful. This is wonderful. I got free medicine. Oh, how long does it take you to get I have to wait quite a while. But, and then just talk about Marshall Tito. He was wonderful. I said, Marshall Tito had like 10 houses all over the country. Oh, he didn't own them, though. Yeah. Could anybody else live in them besides him?
Yeah.
No, but he didn't own them. Well, nobody owns anything over there. There's no Tesla. There's no people investing. There's no people getting any money, extra money. They're getting a wage to live on, and that's it.
Yeah.
In communism, now it's a little different now, but it wasn't. And so there is no Tesla. There is no any other. There's no Johnsonville. There's none of that. It's not owned that. So I hate to get started on it because it makes me sick to think about it.
I will give a simple example of what that looks like. It does not cost a lot of money to eat when you're in Austria, just eating. But the availability of money is such that when I went there to get a meal, I said, hey, I'm going to have a couple of beers, watch a race on the TV. And they're like, oh, credit card, $20 minimum. And I'm like, I can afford that. But for them, that was like a big thing, $20 minimum. And I'm like, yeah, $20. That's a sandwich in Southern California, so we're going to be fine here, right? But the availability to discretionary money is very limited, right? And so you're right. There are problems, and it's easy to look at great models of socialism and say that's the target, but you don't get to navigate that. You get that target, and why do they have it? Well, maybe they have oil money, maybe they have some other thing, but it's the exception, it's not the norm. So I appreciate what you're saying with that, and mostly I appreciate the fact that you talk about love, because the one thing I learned this from a guy named Rob Bell, who was a mega church pastor, who said, you know what, that's not my job. My job is to be bigger than that. And he wrote a book, and the thing he wanted to say was that God is all about love. And there's nothing that love can't overpower, like you can just lean on love all you want. And that's really what that was his lesson. It's like, God wants you to lean on love no matter what. That's his nuclear reactor. And it's like, if you fail in that, that's because you failed. because love is not going to fail you. And I'm like, well, then you know what? That's my default. I'm just going to try to love people. And when we look at all this division and everything else, and it's, you know, like, oh, this person can't do that. Like, no, you know what? I believe in people. I believe that Ralph can do things, and I believe no matter who Ralph is or what Ralph looks like, whatever, I believe in Ralph. You know, and that's my principle, and I want to love people, and I'm going to get burned sometimes on that. I believe I can withstand that, and I'm just going to keep on believing it, folks. And so I think we largely agree on what you're talking about, and agree enough that I can get along with all of that, especially when you're talking about creating better lives for people, as many as possible. You can't catch everybody. That's a problem as old as people. The Greeks talked about that, and the Sumerians talked about that, and that's about as far back as we know. So let's help as many as we can. And thus far, capitalism does seem to be the best at that. I don't want to close the show out with my notes, though. I want you to talk a little bit about some of these things.
Well, one last point.
Please.
So let's go back to Yugoslavia.
Yeah.
She couldn't get in a hospital for 6 months. What do you think about one of the party members? How long do you think it took them to get in the hospital? The same day, right?
Yeah, right. Of course.
Back in communism, they had two different sets of stores. One for the party members, where they had access to anything they wanted and all that they wanted, and everybody else.
Yeah.
Is that the kind of system that people really want to have in this country? Where the government, the leaders of the government, and all their cronies, like, hey, there are people in Venezuela today that are doing great. They're doing fabulous. They're all buddies with the government, or they're in the government. Thousands, hundreds of millions of people starving. People leaving Venezuela. We're seeing them. They're coming to our border. Like thousands and thousands are marching all that way. They're coming to our border because it's a better way of life, because they're leaving that terrible system. I guess finally, love is important, like you said. Jesus brought love into the world. He's the one that said, love your neighbor. And he brought it into this world. He made it possible. God loved everybody. The Father, in the Old Testament, it was about follow the law, do these things. Jesus simplified all that and said, if you love your neighbor, you won't steal. You won't do this. You won't do that. You won't do these things. In my own factory, if people love their neighbors, and we don't have any stealing. We haven't had any stealing in years. Well, it could be an odd one. Okay, there's one here and there, but it's nothing like other places, because the rest of the people will pull them aside and say, you can't do that here. It's not fair to the rest of us. And it's not fair to you. You're hurting yourself. If they see someone with a safety doing something unsafe, they will call that person out, because if you love your neighbor, you won't let that person get hurt.
Right.
This takes special people. This takes a lot of thinking and a lot of learning to get there, where you realize I have a responsibility to my fellow workers. But when they get that, they're different human beings. They're different people. There are people that you'd like to go anywhere with. So I just love people, and I love them, and I love everything about them. I especially love helping them become the best they could possibly be.
Yeah, no, I love it. Any final words? Give us a rule of thumb. I mean, you picked up so many things along the way where you're like, when I see this, I know something. Is there anything like that that's in the book or from your own life lessons that you want to leave us with?
When I see big talkers, I discount it. And this, that. I get very suspicious. When you talk to people, this is not in the book, but it's my basic philosophy, or one of them, which is Spinoza. Spinoza said, what Peter tells me about Paul tells me far more about Peter than it does about Paul. And
Yeah.
when I'm with people and they're negative toward other people, all I can think about is, I don't want to be around you. You're not a good person. If
Yeah.
everybody else is bad, there was a guy that was at his cottage. This neighbor was I won't use the term, but it starts with an A. The guy, this guy's an A. This
Yeah.
guy on this side of me is an A. He's
Mhm.
allowed himself to be surrounded by these people.
Yeah.
What does that tell you about him?
Yeah. Yeah. That's
My
right.
cottage, I love all these people around me. They're all great.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I would say, if you really want to listen hard and think about things, that little example about what people talk about, what they occupy their minds with, will tell you a lot about people and will help you become a very, very much better job of the people you really want to be with. Help you sort them out.
I love it. I love it. The link for Ralph's book is right below. It's in the comments. It's also in the show notes. So definitely check that out. You know what I always say, buddy reads, so buy two and read it with somebody else. That is the best way. And I appreciate
Pre-order
all you guys.
them.
That's right.
Pre-order them so you make sure you get them. When it hits the stand, there's a lot of examples of books running out of. It takes a long time. It takes quite a while to get them printed again.
That's right.
You're
That's
better
right.
off pre-ordering them. Amazon will have them for you. You'll get a little discount, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah.
And I'd sure appreciate it. I could use all the help I get. I really, this is a mission for me. I didn't write this book to become an author. I wrote this book because God wanted me to write this book.
There it is.
Yeah.
He's on a mission from God.
I'm 80 years old. I don't need this otherwise. So,
All right, stand by. Let me say goodbye to your proper like. Let me just run these credits. Hey, thanks for watching the show. I really appreciate it. Right here, you can subscribe. Please do that. It makes the show grow. Hit that notification bell so you know which incredible guest is coming up next. Down below is the PayPal link. You can put a small subscription in. That is an enormous help. All that money goes right back into the show. And then right up over here are the next episodes you should listen to.